My guest today is CEO of It's a Penalty campaign. Their goal, build a world in which no one is vulnerable to abuse, exploitation, or trafficking. Welcome, Sarah, to 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Maggie.
Explain to me a little bit more about It's a Penalty.
So It's a Penalty campaign. We campaign specifically around major global sporting events to protect, children and vulnerable people from abuse, exploitation, and trafficking.
And so we're here in Atlanta in, just days before the big football game.
Yes.
And so you're here strategically.
We are.
Tell me about this.
So what we do is around the major sporting event, we make a short film, which we've done with some of the biggest names in the NFL. It's 30 seconds, and it's being shown currently on every American Airlines flight and every British Airways flight throughout January and February. And the idea is that we reach as many people as they arrive in the hosting city here in Atlanta.
Because what you see is that around big sporting events, be it the Olympics or any big sporting event, that rates of human trafficking, of sexual abuse go up.
Yes.
in the host city.
Yes.
So tell me about how this all started, Sarah.
So I actually set up another charity called Happy Child in Brazil, which rescues, rehabilitates, and reintegrates street children. And we started to notice around that time young girls and boys that were literally being sold on the streets. And I met this young girl called Rose, and that really changed my life, meeting her. She was 16 at the time, and she told me that she'd been sent to the streets because there was no food at home. And she got caught up with this trafficker, this pimp, really quickly. She was 11 at the time, so it had been 5 years. And meeting her, I feel emotional just remembering it. She told me that her life was over. And sometimes when you look into somebody's eyes and you just see that their soul is dead, because the eyes, is the window of the soul. And she said to me, there's no hope for me, but please will you do something to help us? Because she said there are children as young as 9 and 10 that are being trafficked and exploited like I am.
Now you had a successful career, producer, of a television company, and you decide that you're gonna do something to change this.
Honestly, I can only say that it was a calling from God, a very specific calling, because I did love my career in television. But after I became a Christian, it was almost like a new pair of glasses were put on me, and I started to notice things differently. It was like a compassion was awoken in me. I just started to notice, isn't it amazing? They were always there, but I just started to notice these young people sleeping on the streets. And my heart broke then for those that are marginalized, that suffer, that it's that Proverbs that says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, the rights of all those who suffer injustice. And then I was at a conference with my church, and there was a young missionary who stood up and gave her testimony. She said, Sarah, sometimes we just need to come before God and just wait on Him. And she said, let's take all night, let's just, when everyone's asleep, we were at this conference, this away sort of weekend, and she said, let's just wait for God to speak to you, and that's what happened. And I suddenly saw a picture when we were praying of the Pied Piper. You know the story of the Pied Piper? And I told her, I said, I see this picture of someone playing the flute and dancing. These kids who've gotten, in rags and they're filthy, and dancing them out of the village. And she said, well, ask God what that means. And I did. And I just felt immediately in my thoughts, you are the Pied Piper. And she said, just ask God what that means. And he said, the music is my love for these kids through your life.
We found this stat, which is just astonishing, Sarah. 25 million people are trafficked globally into forced labor, while 4.8 million are exploited sexually. So to think, as we sit here in Atlanta right now in anticipation for the big game, that this is happening in our world, and it's happening in Atlanta. Tell me about what you've been doing while you have been here to make people aware of what could potentially happen.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta has one of the largest cases of minor sex trafficking of anywhere in the United States. And so with our partners here, we're working with organizations like the Human Trafficking Institute and the SOAP Project. And we have, as well as working with the Hilton Hotels, who have trained all their staff to spot the human trafficking. And everyone who checks in is going to get an It's a Penalty double-sided leaflet with the signs to look out for and a number they can dial if they see anything. But also, we've been working with this Human Trafficking Institute, and they've been training. Their goal is to train 8,000 Uber and Lyft taxi drivers. And we've produced rear view mirror hanging tags that they can put over their rear view mirrors with a number to dial and a text number to dial. It's the Polaris number here in the United States. And something that simple can make a difference, because the stories that these taxi drivers tell us, about how they're so aware that they pick up young girls underage from hotels, drop them off at residential homes, and they don't know what to do. But with that number and with the training that's made them aware, they can make a difference. And the other thing we've been doing with the SOAP Project this last weekend with 400 volunteers from churches and synagogues is we've been visiting up to 300 hotels and motels with SOAP that the SOAP Project has produced, with a hotline that victims can dial, and also with the folders including the It's a Penalty, signs to look out for, the wristband with the Polaris hotline, posters with the signs to look out for. And we've been giving them to all these hotels and motels in the city, including a list of missing children from NCMEC. And this weekend, 4 of those teenagers on those lists were identified by hotels.
That's amazing.
And one of those teens, one of the hotels we visited, said was actually in that hotel then and there.
Wow.
And they could tell us the room number, and we called the police to help to rescue them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, somebody watching is going to be like, I don't live in Atlanta, how do I help this cause?
You can help identify victims in your own city, that are missing. Get behind projects in your own city that are involved with anti-trafficking. Because it's really, we can only make a difference it's all about working together. It's all about collaboration.
Thank you for accepting that call from God, being that Pied Piper, and helping in so many ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much.